Hi Mitch, hope you're well mate. Just going to take you through a couple of the points on this fairly Legrand track that you wanted me to take a look at. So I've just imported it into arrangement view, just warped it so that it's playing in time. With the metronome, it's 128 beats per minute. I'm just going to go through up to sort of like the first breakdown, because then a lot of the ideas are repeated, but you know, if you need any further advice, just give me a shout. So drums wise, we've just got sort of a kick and that sort of shaker hat loop. So for that, I've just loaded up an impulse. And I've got quite a small, tight sounding kick in this case. I mean, I've added a bit of compression to that and a bit of EQ. So to do that, I've separated off the kick from the rest of the impulse. To do that, create a new audio track, input output options, and you tell that audio track to listen to impulse and more specifically the kick drum, and then just turn monitor to in. Otherwise you won't be able to hear that kick that you've separated off from the impulse. Having done that, it means that you can compress the kick and EQ it, etc. separately from the rest of the impulse kit. The other thing I've got going on there, like I said, there's loads of loops and samples used in this throughout in the original track, so I've just got that shaker pattern. I've used a clip envelope to remove the snare from it. That sound just for the intro, and then when it kicks in you've got the full loop there. We've also got other stuff going on in the impulse kit, but we'll come back to that in a sec. You can hear there's also that squelchy sort of LFO type noise. Now probably about 95% sure that he'll have used just an audio sample from a, you know, loops pack or something like that, you know, from a front cover magazine or something that he's downloaded. All those sort of incidental noises like that that you'll hear throughout, just take those from a sample pack. So where's my version of that? There it is. Not identical, but very similar, and I've just robbed that from, you know, a pack of samples. I think probably from Vengeance House or something like that, where you've got all your separate drum hits separated into folders like kicks, snares, hats, but you've also got effects such as these uplifters and downlifters and just general effects. So there's nothing wrong with pinching stuff from sample packs. Everyone else does it. It's a very quick way of getting the sound that you're looking for. Now to that, I've also added, via a send and return effect, we've got ping pong delay. Again, just to give that sound a little bit of atmosphere, just makes it appear a bit bigger. You can hear there I've got another sort of uplifter sound. Again, just taken from a sample pack, stick a big load of delay on it, pull it back a little bit in the mix, just turn it down a little bit so it's not completely taken over, and it just adds a nice bit of atmosphere. Just listen to how that sounds in the original. You can hear it's just steeped in delay and reverb. Now I've got the main riff, the beep sound fading in here, volume fade. which I've got here. Now, you might not have this instrument that I'm using to play this, but what I'll do is I'll freeze the track so that you can play this back and take a look at what I've done without needing to buy this instrument. It's a synth called Predator by Rob Pape, and it's really good for techie sort of noises. But fundamentally, the thing that you need to look for in the synthesizer that you're using, it's quite a hollow sound. That main sort of beat riff. I reckon it's played by something like a square wave on a synthesizer. So I've just picked out Predator, like I said, because it's quite good at those type of noises. It's playing a square wave. And the other thing that I've done is using a send and return effect. We're adding a nice long reverb to that, just to give it a bit of atmosphere. Now, in the Fedde Le Grand track, it sort of fades in. In fact, it's still probably fading in there, and then when it drops, that's when it's at full volume. So you might want to put some sort of volume automation envelope in there. Just click on the Predator's volume. Maybe even further than that. Now the next thing we've got in there is this ascending synth pitch slide thing, to give it its proper name. How would you go about doing that? Well, this is my version of it. Now the actual sound doesn't matter. I mean, the principle's the same regardless of what sort of sound you're using. There's probably 2 or 3 different ways that you can do that ascending pitch effect. In this case, I've got Operator, one of Live's synthesizers, and I'm using something called a pitch envelope. Which is this control here. So if I just turn that off, you can hear nothing's happening. So first of all, you need to turn the pitch envelope on. Most synthesizers will have something like this, either a dedicated pitch envelope or a modulation envelope that you can apply to the pitch of the synthesizer. This one's got a dedicated pitch envelope. So I'm going to turn it on. This is to what extent the pitch envelope is going to affect the pitch. And then we move over to this middle section. We say which oscillator we want to send the pitch envelope to. So you can hear there's 4 oscillators on the go here. We can leave some of them at a constant pitch if we want, whilst other oscillators ascend in pitch. But I'm going to send it to each of the oscillators. Then we've got the peak that decides how high up the pitch ascent's going to go. So that's obviously quite extreme. If we turn that down a little bit. So that's where we're going to, and then the attack time is how fast we're going to get there. I think I had it set around 14, something like that. So pitch envelope, choose where that's going, and then choose how high you're going and how fast you get there. Now the other thing we've got going on quite a lot of the tracks is some sidechain compression, where we're using the kick drum as the input for the compressor. So you can hear that synth is ducking in time to the kick drum. We've also got a sidechain compressor on the sort of sweeps and uplifters and downlifters. You can hear they're ducking in time to the kick drum. And that is essentially the intro. There's, there's a few other noises in there, but last little bit before it drops, I've added a clap to the impulse kit. That's got a load of reverb on it. And then it drops. So what have we got going on after that? Well, we've already talked about the drums, roughly speaking. We've got the full shaker loop on the go now, with the snare involved as well. We've got the kick. We've got the snare, and the snare, I've separated that away from the impulse. It's quite a short, sharp snare. It's really compressed, and also I've added this thing, the Redux device. What else have we got going on? Oh, we've got the introduction of the bass. Now for the bass I'm using analog, which is another instrument that comes with Live. And basically you can take any number of bass presets and just filter them right off using a low pass filter to get that sort of throbbing sound in combination with sidechain compression. The other thing that I've done is really, really gently, I've applied an LFO ever so gently to the pitch of the sound. So that's what it's doing, but I've just applied it very, very gently. I'll turn it off. You can see just by adding a tiny bit of motion like that to the pitch, gives it a nice wobbly feel. Next up we've got this white noise thing. That fizzy sound when the tune drops and then it cuts there. So this is the sound we're talking about. And again, I'm using one of Live's devices, analog, to do this. This is a great device for really simply doing those noise sweeps. So seen on the synthesizer, you've got oscillators. They are the source of the sound. With some oscillators, you'll also have this thing called a noise generator. So I've actually turned off the oscillators, so we're not getting any tone from those at all, not getting any sound from those. I'm just using the noise generator. If I just loop it up around that. We're getting that fizzy sound, so I just tweaked the volume envelope a little bit and then just chosen what's called the colour of the sound. So you can hear down here, it's almost quite filtered off, and then right up there. And then a bit of a high pass filter just to remove all that. So you can sort of use either the filter or the noise colour to do sort of a nice sweeping motion. Again, that's been sidechain compressed, otherwise it's quite a flat sound with the sidechain compression on. It's a lot nicer to listen to. Now during this section there's 2 points where, listen carefully, this bleep sound appears to get a lot bigger. It's the automation of a larger reverb being applied and then turned off. So it sort of swells and then becomes a lot smaller again. Let's have a look at how you might do that. Let's just solo this up. Now I've got another reverb on the go. Again, a really big reverb. But you can hear it's taking a little while to die away, and as soon as I stop the send, because of the long decay time, it's still, rather than stopping immediately, it's looking a little bit more like that. It's taking a little while to die away. So the way around that would be in the arrangement view to open up the reverb there, unfold the reverb track. You could do it one of two ways. You could either automate a volume change, or you could just deactivate the track temporarily. So for argument's sake, let's go for a volume change, and if we switch to the pencil tool, it's quite easy to do that. Of course, you need to make sure that you've got the right parameter selected. Schoolboy error. Let's give that a go now. You see I've got two fairly large reverbs on the go there, so if you maybe want to accentuate that, or maybe doing something like that. So I'm just automating the volume of both those reverbs. Obviously you could make that a little bit smoother if you wanted by adding a gradient rather than just a... So just with a careful bit of automation, you can make those sounds swell and then become smaller again. Right, just a couple more bits to go through. First up in the drums. After this little drop, there's another little cymbal being added into the mix there. Just gone for a sort of ride cymbal sound just to mirror what's going on up here. And the last new sound that we've added is this synth down here that's doing the stabs, the chord stabs. Now I'm using another third-party instrument here called Surge by Vember Audio. It's quite a rich sounding patch we've got on the go there. There are 3 oscillators and a noise generator. So the reason they've got that quite gritty sound is we're actually adding that to the sound. So if I mute that, it sounds a lot more pedestrian than when we add that grit to the sound with the noise generator. 3 different oscillators. One's doing sort of a square square sawtooth hybrid. One's doing something more sawtooth-like, and then there's another sawtooth of a different, playing in a different octave. So there's 3 oscillators on the go there, quite a rich texture, and a noise generator to give you that sort of sound. But you could mimic what's going on there using maybe analog by having So we've got a triangle, we've got a square. I've pitched the square wave down by an octave. Turn this thing on called Detune Unison, and it just adds a bit of turn that off. Adds a bit of detuning, it just sort of makes it a bit more analog sounding, gives it a bit more of an analog feel. Just where the synth stab hits, just taking out the drums. And the last little bit is the pitch ascent of this synthesizer. And to do that, I've gone to clip view, clip envelopes, a MIDI control, pitch bend, and I've just programmed in a pitch ascent using the pitch bend clip envelope. So it's a slightly different way of doing your pitch ascents. Instead of using an envelope, you could use the pitch bend MIDI control. So use that as a starting point, Mitch. If you need any further pointers, just drop me an email. I'll sort some out for you.